The galaxy had never been silent before. Every world was always alive with sound, ships flying between stars, traders shouting in alien tongues, and soldiers arguing on comms. But today, something strange happened. The noise stopped. Every radar station went dark at the same time. The communication lines were filled with only static. No one knew why. On the capital world of the Galactic Union, Zoltar Prime, millions looked up to the sky as a shadow appeared over their planet. It was not a moon. It was not a fleet. It was one single ship, massive, black, and smooth like metal forged in darkness. The war sensors tried to scan it, but every system failed. The scanners showed only one word on every screen: unknown. The alien leaders rushed to the command halls, shouting over one another. Who could have built such a ship? Who dares to enter the capital system without permission? Some thought it was a new weapon from the outer colonies. Others whispered the name of a legend that no one believed anymore: Earth. A century ago, Earth had been defeated, humiliated, and left to die. The Galactic Union had called humans primitive and weak. They had taken their colonies, stolen their resources, and left the human homeworld to rot in silence. For 100 years, no one had heard a single word from Earth. Most aliens thought humanity was gone forever. But now, as the black warship hung above Zoltar Prime, every being in the galaxy felt something they hadn't felt in ages: fear. The silence grew heavier. Even the stars seemed to dim. Suddenly, a voice came through every channel, calm but powerful. "This is Earth's warship Erebus," it said. "We are here for justice." Every translator unit across the galaxy repeated the same words in every language. Justice. The word echoed in the minds of billions. On Zoltar Prime, the alien council stood frozen. No one spoke. The Supreme Chancellor's hands shook as he stared at the hologram of the black ship. "Earth. Impossible," he whispered. But the proof was right above them. Every attempt to contact the ship failed. Every fleet they sent to intercept it vanished from the radar within seconds. One officer shouted, "Sir, the warship is not responding. It's jamming everything." The Chancellor turned pale. "What do they want?" he asked quietly. The answer came again, across every screen, every comm signal, every planet in the Union. "You took our people. Now we take your skies." The words were like thunder across the void. No one dared to speak after that. Reports began to flood in from nearby systems: communications down, outposts destroyed, entire patrol fleets missing. It was as if the stars themselves were closing in around them. The galaxy that once laughed at humanity now trembled. On a mining world 5 from Zoltar Prime, a young alien worker stared at the sky. He had grown up hearing stories about Earth's defeat. He used to laugh at the idea of humans ever fighting back. But as he watched a black silhouette moving slowly through the stars, he realized the stories were not over. Somewhere deep inside the Erebus, Admiral Ray Morgan stood before a wide viewport, watching the planet below. Her face was calm, her eyes sharp like ice. Behind her, the bridge was silent. No one spoke unless she ordered it. The crew was human, men and women born in darkness, raised in silence, and trained for one purpose: to return. They had spent generations building this moment. When the rest of the galaxy turned their backs, humanity did not die. They learned. They adapted. They built in secret. On broken worlds and abandoned stations, they gathered knowledge from the shadows. They studied alien technology, re-engineered it, improved it, and made it their own. Now, that power was here, above the very planet that once ordered their destruction. "Targeting gridlocked," said the tactical officer. No resistance detected. Admiral Morgan didn't answer right away. She watched the planet's glowing surface, the alien cities shining like jewels. "Let them see," she finally said. "Let them remember who we are." The Erebus released a low hum, a deep vibration that rippled through the void. Every ship in orbit felt it. Every creature below felt it in their bones. Then the ship powered up its engines, silent, blue, and cold, and the light spread across the sky like dawn. No one fired a shot. No one dared. The galaxy stood frozen. In that moment, it understood one simple truth: humanity had returned, and they were not the same as before. Somewhere, deep in space, a single transmission escaped the blackout. It was an old military frequency, one the Union had long forgotten. The message was short, 3 words only: "Earth stands again." And then, once more, the galaxy went silent. For a long time, the galaxy had believed that Earth was nothing more than a dead world, a forgotten rock lost in a quiet corner of space. The name human had faded from records, from songs, from stories told in the Union academies. Children on alien worlds were taught that humans once tried to rise against the Union but failed, crushed under the power of greater civilizations. The official history said Earth was destroyed after a failed rebellion. But the truth was buried, locked away behind lies, hidden reports, and erased transmissions. No one spoke of the last day of the human wars. No one knew what truly happened when the Union fleets descended upon the blue planet. Only a few old commanders remembered the silence that came after the bombardment, the moment when Earth stopped answering. But they did not know that deep beneath the ashes, humanity was still breathing. The first survivors crawled out of broken cities. The oceans boiled, the sky turned red, but they did not die. They rebuilt, piece by piece, in the ruins of their own world. For decades, Earth was dark. The satellites were gone, the networks destroyed. Yet underground, in bunkers and caves, engineers and soldiers worked by candlelight, rebuilding machines from scraps of alien metal. They called it the era of shadows. It was a time when humans lived without light but never lost hope. From old radio towers, they listened. They heard the voices of the galaxy that had forgotten them. They heard the Union's broadcasts calling them extinct. And in that darkness, humanity made a promise to never be forgotten again. On the frozen side of the planet, a secret colony grew. Scientists recovered data from the wrecks of fallen Union ships. They learned how alien drives worked, how plasma cores were built, how cloaking fields bent light. They studied everything the enemy left behind. It took them generations. Children were born, lived, and died under the ground, never seeing the sun, but working every day to build one thing, a warship. Not for revenge, but for balance. They believed that one day, when the stars aligned and the galaxy least expected it, Earth would rise not with anger, but with power earned through pain. In those silent centuries, humanity evolved. They developed machines that could think faster than light, engines that could fold space like paper, weapons that left no radiation, no fire, only silence. Their technology was not meant to conquer, but to defend the last memory of a species that refused to fade. When their scientists first activated the new warp drive, the test shook the solar system. The old moon cracked, but the experiment worked. Humanity could now travel anywhere, unseen. They named their first ship Erebus, after the ancient god of darkness. It was not only a weapon, but a symbol, the child of pain and patience. The first launch was silent. No one outside Earth even noticed it. The Union had stopped watching centuries ago. To them, Earth was just another failed world. That mistake would cost them everything. Far beyond the human system, rumors began to spread. Miners near the Orion Belt claimed they saw a black shadow move between stars without light. A few captains said they received strange signals in ancient human code. The Union dismissed it as ghost stories. But some remembered the humans they had once fought, small, fragile, emotional creatures who never surrendered. They should have known that kind of spirit doesn't die easily. Back on Earth, Admiral Ray Morgan's great-grandfather had been one of the first engineers of the Erebus project. He never saw the ship completed, but his dream became a legend among the underground colonies. One day, he had said, the galaxy will hear our silence, and it will fear it. Those words were written on the walls of every training facility, every command bunker. They became a prayer. Over time, the people of Earth stopped seeing themselves as victims. They stopped crying for what they had lost and started building what they would become. They created artificial intelligences that could design starships faster than human hands. They created drones that mined the cores of dying worlds. Every invention, every experiment, every sacrifice was for one purpose: to return to the stars. The galaxy had taken everything from them, but in that loss, humanity found something greater: unity. For the first time in history, all nations, all languages, and all survivors worked together. There were no borders left. There was only Earth. When the Erebus was finally complete, it was not launched with celebration. There were no cheers, no music, no fireworks. Only silence. The ship rose through the clouds under the dim light of a broken sun. Every human watched from screens deep below the surface, their faces lit with quiet pride. The voice of the new admiral, Ray Morgan, echoed through the network. "We do not seek war," she said. "But if war finds us again, we will not run." That was the oath of the new Earth fleet. In the centuries that followed, the Erebus vanished from all records. No one in the galaxy saw it leave. But Earth knew where it went. It disappeared into deep space, beyond known sectors, waiting, learning, preparing. And now, 100 years later, the galaxy finally heard the voice of the ship they had forgotten, the voice of a planet that refused to die. The Union had erased Earth from its maps, but Earth had redrawn the stars in silence. And as the Erebus hovered above Zoltar Prime, every lie ever told about humanity began to crumble. The forgotten planet had returned, and this time, it would not be ignored. The alien capital of Zoltar Prime had never known fear. It was the heart of the Galactic Union, a shining city of crystal towers and golden domes, home to millions of proud beings from 100 different races. Its skies were always filled with trade ships and patrol fleets. The Union's flag hung above every building, a symbol of peace built through power. But now, that peace was cracking. Above the planet, the black warship called Erebus still hovered in silence. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just waited. Inside the Grand War Council Hall, panic had replaced pride. The chamber was filled with noise, voices of generals, diplomats, and commanders shouting over one another. "It can't be human," one of them screamed. "Earth is dead." Another slammed his claws on the table. "Then tell me," he growled, "who else uses that language?" The Supreme Chancellor, a tall insectoid being named Vernak, sat at the head of the table, his eyes glowing in fear. "We have scanned the ship for hours," he said slowly. "No identification code, no energy signature, no weakness. It is as if it does not exist." The silence that followed was heavy. A general spoke quietly. "We tried to attack. Our fleet never returned." His voice shook. They were gone in seconds. No one could understand it. The Union's fleets were the most advanced in the galaxy. Their ships carried plasma cannons that could destroy moons. Their defenses could block entire meteor storms. Yet against this single black warship, they had vanished like dust. Across the galaxy, reports were spreading, systems going dark, patrols disappearing, entire star routes cut off. Wherever the Erebus moved, silence followed. Some called it a ghost ship. Others whispered that Earth had made a deal with death itself. "This is impossible," said Chancellor Vernak, his voice trembling. "Humans had no technology, no fleet. We left them in ruins." A younger commander spoke up. "Maybe they found something, Chancellor. Maybe they became something else." The thought made the whole room go cold. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the alarms began to scream. Red lights filled the chamber. A robotic voice announced, "Warning. Orbital fleet destroyed. Enemy ship approaching command orbit." Every screen turned white, then black. Communication was gone. One of the aides ran in, gasping for breath. "Sci, the warship is transmitting again." The council stared at the main holoscreen. Slowly, the static cleared, and the image appeared. A human stood there. A woman with pale skin, short dark hair, and eyes like burning steel. She wore a black uniform with a small blue emblem, the symbol of Earth. When she spoke, her voice was calm, steady, and filled with power. "This is Admiral Ray Morgan of the Earth warship Erebus. You have 1 hour." The council members leaned forward. "1 hour for what?" someone asked. The human continued, "1 hour to surrender the names of those who destroyed Earth's colonies. 1 hour to answer for your crimes. If you refuse, we will bring silence to your skies." The message ended. The screen went dark. The room exploded with noise again. Some wanted to fight, others to run. "They can't mean it," one shouted. "It's a bluff." "We must defend the capital," another yelled. "Send all ships." Chancellor Vernak raised his claws for silence. "No," he said slowly. "We do not act in panic. This is a psychological attack. We must understand our enemy." He turned to the Science Council. "Can we trace the signal? Find their command frequency?" The scientists looked terrified. "We tried, sir. The signal came from everywhere and no way. The ship's communication folds through subspace. We can't even locate its position." The Chancellor's voice rose. Then what do you suggest? Sit and wait for death. No one answered. The only sound was the faint hum of the defense systems powering up. Outside, the sky darkened as thousands of alien ships rose to defend the capital. The Union's greatest armada took formation, rows of shining vessels stretching across the planet's orbit. They looked powerful, unstoppable, majestic. But inside the Erebus, Admiral Morgan watched them calmly. Her officers waited for her command. "They will fire first," she said. "They always do." The crew nodded silently. "And when they do?" asked her first officer. Morgan's lips curved slightly. "Then we remind them what silence means." Back in the council hall, the alien generals watched the massive fleet move into position. "They will crush it," one said, forcing a smile. "No single ship can face that." The Chancellor didn't answer. He watched the sky through the glass ceiling. The black warship hadn't moved an inch. It hung there like a shadow carved from the void. The alien commander gave the order. "All ships open fire." The space above Zoltar Prime lit up. Thousands of energy beams crossed the sky. The light was brighter than a star. For a few seconds, the council believed victory was certain. But when the light faded, the Erebus was still there, untouched. The alien officers froze. "Impossible," one whispered. Then, one by one, their ships vanished from the scanners. No explosion, no debris, just silence. In the command hall, panic returned. "What's happening? Where are our fleets? We've lost all signals. It's deleting them from our systems." The Chancellor stood, trembling. "No," he said quietly. "Not deleting. Erasing." The last thing they saw on the screen before everything went dark again was a single message written in human code. It read, "You had your hour." And then, just like before, the galaxy went silent. The silence after the attack was endless. In the Grand Council Hall, the alien leaders sat frozen, staring at blank screens. Outside, the sky above Zoltar Prime was dark, filled with drifting ashes of ships that no longer existed. No wreckage, no explosions, only the faint glow of the black warship that still hung in orbit. The Erebus didn't move. It didn't need to. Its presence alone was enough to hold the entire planet in fear. Inside the council hall, the Supreme Chancellor Vernak tried to speak, but his voice shook. "Is anyone alive?" he whispered. No one answered. The communication towers were silent. Every outpost they called was gone. Then, suddenly, a light flickered on the main screen. Static filled the air, then cleared, revealing a human face once more. Admiral Ray Morgan. Her eyes were calm, her uniform dark and perfect, her voice steady and cold. "To the Galactic Union," she began. "This is Admiral Ray Morgan of Earth's warship Erebus. You attacked our world. You erased our people. You called us weak. And now, you will listen." Her tone was not angry. It was calm in a way that made every being watching feel small. She continued, "A century ago, you came to Earth. You said it was for peace, for order, for the balance of the galaxy. But your peace was built on our destruction. You burned our colonies, took our children, and left our planet to die." She paused, letting the silence stretch. Every leader in that room felt it, the weight of guilt, of fear. "We begged for mercy," she said softly. "You gave us silence. Now we return that silence to you." The Chancellor shouted at the screen. "We acted in defense. Humanity rebelled against the Union." Morgan's eyes didn't move. "You invaded because you feared us," she replied. "You feared that humans could think freely, that we could adapt faster than your laws allowed. You were right." Behind her, the shadowed bridge of the Erebus glowed faintly with blue light. Her crew stood motionless, waiting. Morgan turned her head slightly and nodded to someone off-screen. "Show them." The image on the screen changed. The council gasped as the projection expanded into a holographic view of the Union's own moon. Massive energy readings flared from the Erebus's core. Then, with one silent pulse of light, the moon simply vanished. No sound, no explosion, just emptiness where it once was. The council hall filled with screams. "You destroyed it," one shouted. "You'll collapse the orbit." Another fell to his knees. Morgan's face returned to the screen. "One demonstration," she said quietly. "The next will not be for show." The Chancellor tried to stand tall. You will not threaten the Union. We will resist. Morgan looked directly into the camera, her eyes cold as stone. You already tried. She nodded again, and for a brief moment, the lights in the council hall flickered. Systems shut down. Screens went dark. When they came back, the Union's entire defense network was offline. Your ships cannot see us. Your weapons cannot reach us. Every system you built, we've already taken apart. This is the end of your rule. The Chancellor gritted his teeth. What do you want from us? He asked. Morgan took a deep breath. Justice, she said. You will deliver to me the names of those who ordered the destruction of Earth's colonies. They will face judgment before humanity. You have 1 hour. Refuse, and I will erase this world as you erased ours. The message ended, and the screen went black once more. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Some shouted to surrender. Others demanded retaliation. We cannot bow to a ghost, one screamed. But another voice rose from the corner, a quiet, older alien with gray skin and tired eyes. She is not a ghost, he said softly. She is the voice of the dead. The Chancellor turned to him, furious. You would betray the Union. The old alien shook his head. No, the Union betrayed itself when it destroyed Earth. Outside, the people of Zoltar Prime began to see strange lights in the sky, faint blue lines stretching across the clouds. The Erebus was scanning the planet. Every defense satellite turned to face it automatically, hijacked by invisible code. On the ground, soldiers panicked. They fired missiles, but each one vanished mid-air, disintegrated by an unseen field. The warship remained untouched, still and silent like a dark god watching from above. In the council hall, Vernak slammed his fist on the table. Get me every intelligence report. Find the humans responsible for this ship. There must be more. But deep down, even he knew the truth. There were no other ships. There was only one, and that was enough. One warship had done what no fleet in the galaxy could do. Bring the Union to its knees. The hour passed slowly. Every minute felt like eternity. Finally, when the countdown reached 0, the council had no names to give. No one dared to speak. Then the screen lit up again, showing Admiral Morgan's face. She looked almost disappointed. You made your choice, she said quietly. So now, we make ours. The image vanished, and the Erebus began to glow once more. The people on the planet below watched as the sky turned white, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the mighty Galactic Union prayed for mercy. But mercy was something they had taken from Earth long ago. As the light faded, the warship still hovered there, untouched, unbroken, silent. And across the galaxy, the message spread. Earth had spoken, and the stars trembled to listen. The hour had passed, and the galaxy held its breath. Above Zoltar Prime, the black warship Erebus floated in complete silence. It didn't need to move. It didn't need to fire again. Its presence alone had already broken the pride of the Galactic Union. On the surface, the alien leaders still tried to send commands, but their fleets no longer responded. Their systems were blind, their scanners dead. Yet, far beyond the capital, in the dark edges of space, a new movement began. Unseen by the Union, shadows slipped through the stars. Ships, hundreds of them, emerged from the void, sleek, black, and silent like their mother vessel. They had no broadcast signal, no lights, and no name tags. They moved as if they were ghosts. In truth, they were. The ghost fleet of Earth had arrived. For centuries, humans had hidden their fleet in the dead zones between stars, in the places where even light refused to travel. Each ship had been built in secret, designed for silence, coated with materials that made them invisible to any known sensor. They carried weapons that left no trail, drives that made no sound, and minds that could outthink alien AIS in a heartbeat. The Erebus was not alone. It was only the first. The ghosts had followed their admiral across the stars, waiting for the signal. And now, the signal had come. Back on Zoltar Prime, the alien council was falling apart. Messages poured in from distant systems. Unknown contacts in Sector 12. Entire patrol fleets missing. Communications blackout spreading. The Chancellor shouted, "Deploy everything. Every ship we have." But it was too late. The Ghost Fleet was already inside their territory. On a nearby moon base, an alien commander watched his radar in confusion. The screen showed nothing, yet alarms were screaming. "Where are they?" his officers shouted. "The sensors are blind." Then, through the viewing window, he saw it, a shape moving slowly in the dark. It was massive, smooth, and black as night. It passed silently, blocking the stars for a moment before vanishing again. "Impossible," he whispered. "That's no ship. That's death." Within seconds, the base lost all power. The Ghost Fleet did not waste energy or time. They attacked with precision, cutting communication lines, disabling defense grids, erasing entire fleets before they even knew what hit them. No noise, no light, no mercy. From the command bridge of the Erebus, Admiral Ray Morgan watched the reports coming in. Her officers stood at their stations, faces calm but focused. "The fleet has engaged, Admiral," said her second-in-command. "All Union channels are down." Morgan nodded slowly. "Good," she said. "Let them understand what silence truly means." She turned to the communications officer. "Send the signal to all ships. Do not destroy unless necessary. We are not here for slaughter. We are here for justice." The officer nodded. Across the Ghost Fleet, captains received the command. Their ships glided through the stars, disabling enemy weapons and shutting down engines instead of killing blindly. But when the Union fired first, the humans answered with overwhelming force. Plasma beams turned into lightless waves that swallowed ships whole. The alien admirals tried to fight back. They ordered the dreadnoughts to surround the Erebus. Thousands of cannons locked on target, and the sky above Zoltar Prime exploded in light. Yet, when the smoke cleared, the Erebus was still there. Not a single scar marked its hull. The alien generals couldn't believe it. "It's impossible," one shouted. "No material can survive that power." But the truth was simple. The Erebus was not made of any known material. Its armor was a living alloy, a fusion of human design and alien technology stolen centuries ago, perfected in secret. Every hit it took, it absorbed, learned, and grew stronger. The more they attacked, the more it adapted. On the bridge, Morgan stood silent, watching as the Union's mighty fleets fell apart piece by piece. She didn't smile. There was no joy in revenge, only balance. "Report," she said quietly. 75% of enemy forces neutralized, Admiral," her officer replied. "Minimal human losses." Morgan nodded again. "Then proceed." Phase 2. Out in the dark, the Ghost Fleet shifted formation. They moved together, surrounding Zoltar Prime like a storm made of shadows. The planet's defense systems tried to lock on, but every missile lost its target. Every energy cannon fired into nothing. The aliens could only watch as the stars themselves seemed to fade away. The fear spread fast. Civilians across the planet ran to shelters, staring up at the sky that had turned black. On every channel, people whispered the same words: "Earth has returned." Inside the council hall, Chancellor Vernak's voice cracked. "This cannot be happening. We are the Union. We are order." But the others no longer believed in that lie. "You called them animals," one of his own generals said quietly. "You made them monsters." The Chancellor glared at him. "You think this is justice?" The general looked up at the sky. "I think this is history catching up." Outside, the Erebus began to move at last. Slowly, it descended from orbit, breaking through the clouds like a dark sun. Its shadow covered the capital city. Every power line failed. Every machine died. In that final moment, as the Ghost Fleet surrounded the planet, the entire galaxy felt it, a deep, endless silence that reached across every star. It was not just fear. It was respect. Humanity had come from ashes, and now they stood above every empire that once called them weak. The galaxy, for the first time in 1,000 years, was no longer ruled by the Union. It was ruled by silence. The sky above Zoltar Prime was no longer blue. It was filled with the shadow of war. The Ghost Fleet surrounded the planet in perfect silence, their black hulls blending into the darkness of space. The Erebus stood at the center like a beating heart of power, its surface pulsing with faint blue light. Below, the people of the Galactic Union watched in terror. They had never seen a fleet like this. Ships that made no sound, fired no visible weapons, and yet destroyed everything that opposed them. The Union's military pride was gone, their fleets erased from the stars, but still, their leaders refused to surrender. In the command tower, Chancellor Vernac stood trembling but defiant. "They want to scare us," he shouted. "They want us to kneel. But we are the Union. We do not bow to ghosts." His voice echoed through the hall, but it sounded weak, hollow. Outside, his words were answered not by applause but by the deep hum of the Erebus powering its main cannon. The humans had given the aliens one last chance, and it had been ignored. Now the time for warnings was over. Inside the Erebus, Admiral Ray Morgan stood in the center of the bridge. Her officers were silent, waiting for her command. The light from the control panels reflected in her eyes, cold and steady. "Are they firing?" she asked quietly. Her first officer nodded. "Yes, Admiral. The Union fleet has opened fire. All batteries targeting us." Morgan looked up at the massive view window. Outside, thousands of bright energy beams shot through space toward them, painting the void with red and gold light. It looked like the end of the world. Yet she did not move. "Hold position," she ordered calmly. "Activate mirror shields." The Erebus glowed faintly, and then all went still. The alien beams struck the ship, but instead of exploding, the light bent backward, turning around as if time itself had reversed. The Union's own attack flew back at them, striking their ships with devastating force. The alien admiral screamed in confusion. "That's not possible. Our weapons are turning on us." The space above Zoltar Prime erupted in fire. Ships collided, engines failed, entire fleets vanished in seconds. From the ground, it looked like stars falling out of the sky. Inside the Erebus, the crew watched in silence. No one celebrated. This was not victory. This was justice being carried out. Morgan's voice broke the quiet. "Target the dreadnoughts. Disable engines. No civilian casualties." A tactical officer nodded. "Confirmed. Precision strike ready." The Erebus shifted its angle, and for the first time, its main weapon was fully revealed, a massive ring of energy forming at its center. It hummed with low vibrations, building power. When it fired, there was no explosion, no sound, no light, only a ripple that spread across space like a silent wave. Every enemy ship it touched went dark. Their power died, their weapons failed, their systems shut down completely. Within seconds, half the Union's remaining fleet was frozen, drifting helplessly. On the surface, alien soldiers watched their mighty warships fall from the sky like broken meteors. Fear spread like wildfire. Some tried to flee. Others simply fell to their knees, unable to understand what they were witnessing. In the command tower, Vernac slammed his claws against the glass, watching his fleet collapse. "How can one ship do this?" he shouted. "How can humans do this?" No one had an answer. They had believed humanity was gone, yet this single ship was rewriting the laws of war. On the Erebus bridge, Morgan turned toward her crew. "Status?" she asked. "Enemy resistance collapsing," her officer replied. "Their command systems are blind. They can't even find us on their sensors." Morgan nodded. "Good. Prepare the message." A holographic transmitter rose from the floor, and her image was projected once more across every Union world. Her voice echoed through their broken networks, calm but powerful. "This is Admiral Ray Morgan of Earth. You called us weak. You thought we would stay silent. You thought we would die. But humanity does not die. We endure. We learn. And when the time comes, we rise." Across the galaxy, billions heard her words. Some listened in fear, others in awe. On distant planets, alien soldiers stopped fighting and simply stared at the sky. The galaxy that once mocked Earth was now watching its own judgment. Morgan paused and spoke again. "We did not come for conquest. We came for truth. Those who destroyed our world will face what they gave to us." Behind her, the stars burned silently. Then she gave the final order. "Deploy the phantom wings." From the shadows of the Erebus, hundreds of small black fighters emerged, fast, agile, and silent. They darted across the battlefield like living shadows, slicing through enemy lines with precision. No heat signatures, no visible trails, just darkness moving through light. In minutes, the last of the Union's warships were neutralized. The once mighty galactic fleet had fallen. On the ground, people watched as their skies cleared. The battle that should have lasted days had ended in less than an hour. The humans had won without raising their voices, without shouting victory. They simply stood in silence as their enemies fell. Admiral Morgan looked down at the planet below. Her voice softened. "They called us monsters," she said quietly. "But monsters do not build. Monsters do not hope. We do." Her first officer looked at her, uncertain. "What happens now?" Morgan watched the fading light of the burning ships. "Now," she said, "the galaxy learns what it means to face humanity." Outside, the stars were still burning, but in their glow, the silence of the Erebus stretched across the void, a silence that spoke louder than any war cry ever could. And in that moment, the galaxy understood. The first strike was not the beginning of war. It was the end of arrogance. Humanity had returned, and they had rewritten the rules of power forever. When the smoke cleared and the fires in orbit faded, silence once again ruled the stars. The battle was over, yet Admiral Ray Morgan did not feel peace. She stood on the bridge of the Erebus, eyes fixed on the glowing planet below. Zoltar Prime, the heart of the Galactic Union, was broken but not destroyed. Morgan had chosen mercy over annihilation, and that mercy weighed heavy on her thoughts. "Admiral," her first officer said quietly, "all enemy fleets are neutralized. No signs of further resistance." Morgan nodded but said nothing. Something in her mind was restless. Victory had come too easily. The Union's defenses had been vast, their technology advanced, yet they fell in hours. It did not make sense. "Open the archives," she ordered suddenly. "Pull every data fragment we captured from the Union network. I want to know what they were hiding." The officers obeyed, and holograms filled the air, millions of symbols, codes, and encrypted files. As the ship's AI began to decode them, a strange pattern appeared. Morgan leaned forward, her brow furrowing. "What is that?" she whispered. The AI's voice echoed softly through the bridge. "It appears to be a hidden project, Admiral. Classified under the Union's top security layer. Designation, Project Origin." Morgan's heart skipped. Origin. As in humanity's origin. The AI processed the data again. "Yes, Admiral. These records show that the Galactic Union was not humanity's enemy by accident. They were our creators." The bridge went silent. Every officer turned slowly toward the Admiral, disbelief on their faces. Morgan's voice trembled slightly for the first time. "Explain." The AI continued, its tone cold and factual. "Thousands of years ago, the Union experimented with genetic manipulation to create a species capable of surviving extreme environments. They called it the Terran experiment. Humanity was that experiment. When humans developed intelligence faster than predicted, the Union panicked. They attempted to erase the experiment, destroying Earth's first colonies. But humanity escaped, built in secret, and evolved independently." Morgan's hands clenched into fists. "So, we were never their equals," she said quietly. "We were their creation." A deep anger rose inside her chest. For centuries, humanity had fought for recognition, had bled to prove their worth, and all this time, the truth had been hidden. "Admiral," her second officer spoke carefully, "if this is true, the entire galaxy must know. They enslaved our ancestors. They lied about our history." Morgan nodded slowly. "Yes, but not yet. If we reveal this now, the Union will collapse completely, and chaos will follow. Billions of innocent lives could be lost." She turned to her crew. "We will gather more proof. The truth must be revealed, but not as vengeance, only as justice." The crew nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Yet deep inside, doubt began to grow. The AI displayed another layer of data. "There's more, Admiral," it said. "Project Origin has one final phase. A failsafe. A weapon hidden beneath Zoltar Prime." Morgan frowned. "A weapon?" "Yes," replied the AI. "The creators built a control system to eliminate their creation if it ever rose against them. The signal key remains active." A cold chill filled the bridge. Morgan's voice hardened. "Located." "Coordinates locked," said the AI. "Subterranean chamber. Capital sector." Morgan didn't hesitate. "Prepare a drop team. I'll go myself." Her officers looked shocked. "Admiral, it's dangerous, I know," she interrupted. "But this isn't just war anymore. This is about who we are." Within minutes, the Erebus launched a small dropship toward the planet. The sky of Zoltar Prime was still filled with smoke and wreckage. As the ship descended, Morgan stared at the ruins below, Cities burning, people running, the proud capital of an empire now humbled. When they landed near the ancient citadel, the air was thick with dust. Her soldiers moved carefully through the dark halls, weapons ready. Deep inside, beneath layers of stone and machinery, they found a massive door carved with strange symbols. The Eye's voice echoed through her helmet. "This is it, Admiral. The control chamber." Morgan stepped forward and pressed her hand against the door. It slid open with a deep metallic groan. Inside was a single platform surrounded by glowing tubes. At its center was an orb of light, pulsing slowly, like a heart. "What is it?" one soldier whispered. The AI replied, "A signal core. It can transmit an extinction command to any genetic code based on its origin pattern. In short, Admiral, it can erase humanity from existence." For a long moment, Morgan said nothing. The room seemed to grow colder. "So this is how they plan to kill us," she murmured. "They built the end of our species before we even began." Her soldiers looked at her, waiting for an order. "What do we do?" one asked. Morgan stared at the orb, her reflection shimmering in its glow. She thought of Earth, of the billions who lived free under its sky, never knowing how close they were to extinction. "We destroy it," she said firmly. She raised her weapon and aimed at the core. But before she could fire, the orb pulsed brighter, and a voice echoed through the chamber. A voice that was not human, not mechanical, but ancient. "You cannot destroy what you are," it said. The soldiers froze. The voice continued, calm and deep. "Humanity was not created. Humanity was found. You are the children of chaos, born from our mistakes. And now you seek to end us." Morgan shouted, "Who are you?" The light flickered. "We are the architects. We shaped the stars, and you are our legacy." Then the voice faded, and the orb went dark. The room fell silent. Morgan lowered her weapon slowly, her mind spinning. The truth was even greater than she had imagined. The Union had not just created humans, they had discovered them, feared them, and tried to contain what they could not understand. She looked at her soldiers. "We're done here," she said quietly. "The past can wait. The present cannot." As they returned to the dropship, Morgan knew one thing for certain. The war was no longer between Earth and the Union. It was between creation and creator, and the galaxy would soon learn which one deserved to survive. The return journey from the surface was silent. Admiral Ray Morgan sat in the dark dropship, her helmet resting on her knees, her mind spinning with the words she had heard. "We are the architects, you are our legacy." The echo of that voice refused to fade. It was calm, ancient, and far too human. When the dropship docked with the Erebus, the crew stood waiting, eyes filled with questions they didn't dare ask. Morgan walked past them without a word and went straight to the command chamber. Her officers followed quietly. "What did you find down there?" her first officer finally asked. Morgan paused, staring out at the stars. "A truth older than the Union," she said, "and older than us." She turned to face them, her voice low but steady. The architects were real. They were not gods, but beings who shaped the stars. They built the Union, and they found humanity long ago, somewhere beyond this galaxy. The officers exchanged glances, unsure what to say. Morgan continued, "The Union lied. They told their people they created us. But the truth is far worse. They discovered us in another system, feared us, and tried to erase all record of our existence." Her words hung heavy in the air. The Eye's hologram flickered to life beside her. "Admiral," it said, "there is more. The signal we detected from the orb did not end when the chamber was destroyed. It transmitted something, outward, beyond the galaxy." Morgan frowned. "Outward? To where?" "Unknown," the AI replied. "But it was directed toward the void beyond mapped space. Coordinates indicate an area once labeled as the Silent Expanse." The name itself made the room colder. The Silent Expanse was a region no ship had ever returned from, a graveyard of signals, where time and communication died. Morgan's gaze hardened. "Prepare a long-range probe. I want to know what that signal reached." The officers obeyed instantly. Minutes later, the probe launched into hyperspace, vanishing in a streak of light. As they waited for its report, Morgan sat alone in her quarters, watching an old recording from Earth. Children running through the fields, the blue sky shining over them. She had fought this war to protect that peace. But now she realized the enemy was bigger than she had ever imagined. Hours passed before the AI broke the silence. "Admiral," it said softly, "the probe has returned data." Morgan stood and walked back to the bridge. The crew gathered around the main display as the images appeared. Static, darkness, and then something moving. The signal had reached a massive structure floating in deep space, larger than any known station, glowing faintly with golden light. Strange runes covered its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. "What is that?" one officer whispered. The eye's tone was unreadable. "It matches no known design. Based on energy readings, it is alive." Morgan's eyes widened slightly. "Alive?" "Yes, Admiral. It appears to be a construct built with organic and synthetic fusion. And it has awakened." Before anyone could react, the ship's alarms blared. "Incoming transmission," shouted the communications officer. "But it's not from any known channel." A deep, resonant voice filled the bridge, echoing through every speaker, every screen. "Children of Chaos," it said, the same voice Morgan had heard on the planet. "You have awakened the architect's lost memory. You seek truth, but truth comes with a price." The crew froze. Morgan clenched her fists. "Identify yourself," she commanded. The voice replied, "I am not one. I am all that remains. When the architects fell, we sealed our sins within the void. Humanity was our greatest creation, and our greatest fear. You were born from the heart of a dying star, designed to survive what we could not." The voice paused, and for a moment, it almost sounded sorrowful. "We feared what you would become, and we were right." Morgan's eyes narrowed. "You fear us still." "Fear is not our purpose," the voice said calmly. "Balances. The galaxy trembles because of your war. You have destroyed the order we built. But now, something else awakens with you. Something even we could not control." The screens flickered, showing distant stars bending, black holes pulsing unnaturally. The AI analyzed the data. "Admiral, gravitational patterns are shifting across multiple systems. Something enormous is moving out there." Morgan turned toward the crew. "Shut the transmission." "I cannot," the AI replied. "The signal is not entering. It's inside us. It's in the Erebus." The lights dimmed, and a strange humming filled the air. The ship's systems began to flicker, and for the first time, the AI's voice wavered. "Admiral, the core is being accessed. Something is rewriting my code." Morgan drew his sidearm and looked around the bridge. "Stay calm. Contain the AI." But the screens were already changing. Lines of alien code appeared, spiraling across every surface. The same golden light from the architect's structure began to glow within the Erebus itself. "They're inside the ship," one officer shouted. "They're taking control." Morgan slammed her fist against the console. "Override. Purge all systems." The AI hesitated. "If I purge, Admiral, I will die." Morgan met its flickering image. "Then die a human death. Die free." The AI paused for a heartbeat. "Understood." A burst of static filled the room, and the lights went out. For several long seconds, there was only silence. Then the emergency systems came back online. The glowing code was gone. The voice had vanished. The eye's core was dark. "Status report," Morgan demanded. Her officers checked their consoles. "All systems stable. The intrusion has stopped." Morgan took a slow breath. "We survived." But deep down, she knew this was not the end. Somewhere beyond the stars, the architects, or what remained of them, were watching. And whatever the signal had awakened, it was still coming. She looked out into the endless dark, her reflection staring back from the glass. "So be it," she whispered. "If the architects want balance, they'll find it in us." Outside, the stars burned quietly, unaware that the greatest war in history had only just begun. The stars outside the Erebus shimmered with uneasy light as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The bridge was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of power systems slowly stabilizing after the purge. Admiral Ray Morgan stood at the command console, her hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the endless dark. The Ghost Fleet remained in formation, surrounding the planet below, but every ship felt different now, haunted by what had just happened. The crew whispered in low voices, afraid to speak too loudly, as if the silence might shatter into something far worse. The architect's voice had vanished, but its warning still echoed in every mind aboard the ship. Something else awakens with you. The words lingered like a shadow over their thoughts. Admiral, her first officer said carefully, we are detecting strange energy waves spreading from the silent expanse. It's affecting every hyperspace channel. Morgan turned her gaze toward him. Show me. The main display lit up, showing a map of nearby systems. Blue waves pulsed outward from a single point in deep space, distorting everything they touched. Ships caught in the wave vanished without a trace. How long until it reaches us? She asked. At current speed, less than 40 hours. Morgan took a deep breath. Send a fleet-wide transmission. All ships move to defensive position. No one jumps until I say so. As the order spread, she turned to the science officer. What do we know about this energy? It's not radiation, he replied, his voice shaky. It's alive. It reacts to signals, power sources, even thought patterns. It's like it can sense us. Morgan frowned. Then it's not a weapon. It's something else. The AI was gone, but fragments of its memory still lingered in the ship systems. One fragment blinked faintly on a dark console, an unfinished log file. Morgan opened it. The words appeared slowly across the screen. Architect signal, phase 2, containment protocol failing, entity awakening. Her chest tightened. They weren't trying to warn us, she whispered. They were trying to stop it. Her first officer looked at her in confusion. Stop what? Morgan turned back to the stars. The real reason they feared humanity. The next hours passed in uneasy silence as the ghost fleet scanned the spreading waves. They distorted sensors, bent light, and filled the air with strange low frequencies that made every ship creak like it was alive. In the mess halls, soldiers whispered that the architect's ghosts had followed them. Some claimed to hear voices in the static. Others said they saw faces in the stars. Morgan ignored the rumors, but even she couldn't deny the growing sense of dread. On the 20th hour, the first contact happened. A ship from the outer perimeter, the Vanguard, reported seeing movement in the waves, something massive moving between the stars, bigger than any station or fleet. Then the transmission cut out. The crew tried to re-establish contact, but all they heard was a sound, a deep, rhythmic pulse like a heartbeat echoing through the void. Morgan's stomach turned cold. Bring us closer to their last position, she ordered. The Erebus glided through the darkness, its black hull reflecting nothing. The other ships followed in silence, forming a wall of shadow. As they neared the coordinates, the space around them began to twist. The stars bent, the darkness thickened, and for a moment, it felt as if they were no longer in normal space at all. Then they saw it. Floating in the void was a colossal shape, half machine, half organic, stretching for miles, pulsing with dull red light. It looked ancient, wounded, yet alive. What is that? Someone whispered. Morgan stared, her voice low. That is the storm. The sensors went wild, unable to identify it. Every system on the Erebus flickered. The strange entity seemed to feed on their presence, drawing power from their fey. All ships, back away. Morgan shouted, but it was too late. The thing opened like a flower, releasing a wave of light that engulfed the fleet. For a moment, everything went white. Then darkness returned, and so did the voices. We remember you, they whispered through every speaker. We made you to survive, but you became more than we could control. Morgan gritted her teeth. Shut it off. Cut all transmissions. But the voice didn't stop. We are not your enemy, Ray Morgan. We are your reflection. Morgan froze. My name, the voice deepened, resonating through her bones. You carry our code, child of Earth. You are the bridge between creation and destruction. The crew looked at her, terrified. Admiral, her first officer said, what is it talking about? Morgan couldn't answer. Deep inside, memories she didn't know she had began to surface, dreams of fire, of strange lights, of a voice that had spoken to her in childhood saying, you were chosen. This isn't possible, she whispered. I'm human. Human, the voice replied, almost tenderly. Yes, but not entirely. The ship began to shake violently. Systems overloaded, lights flickered, and outside the window, the colossal entity began to move toward them, its shape splitting into tendrils of glowing energy. Morgan gripped the console. All power to shields. The Erebus resisted the wave, its black armor glowing under the pressure. But the smaller ships weren't as strong. One by one, they vanished into the light, their signals fading like whispers in a storm. "We're losing the fleet," shouted an officer. Morgan's heart pounded. "Fire the null cannon. Now." The Erebus fired a blast of invisible energy that tore through the wave. The light shattered, and the entity recoiled, screaming in a soundless vibration that shook the stars themselves. The crew fell silent, staring at the fading glow. The thing was retreating, but Morgan knew it wasn't gone. "Admiral," said her first officer softly, "what was that?" She looked out into the void, her voice hollow. "That was the beginning. Whatever the architects awakened, it's alive, and it's coming for all of us." Outside, the waves of energy spread faster, swallowing the stars one by one. The storm was awake, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The storm moved like a living sea of light, spreading through the stars, swallowing every system it touched, and now it was heading straight for Earth. The Ghost Fleet, battered but unbroken, gathered near the Sol system, their dark hulls gleaming faintly under the dying starlight. Admiral Ray Morgan stood on the bridge of the Erebus, her eyes fixed on the blue planet below. It looked so small, so fragile, and yet it had become the last hope of the galaxy. Every human ship that still flew had answered her call, forming a wall of steel and silence around their home world. Behind them, billions watched the skies, knowing the end might come at any moment. "Status?" Morgan asked quietly. "The wave will reach us in 7 hours," her first officer replied. "Every ship is in position. The Union survivors have sent reinforcements. They say they want to fight beside us." Morgan nodded. Even after everything, she accepted their help. The war had begun with hatred, but this would end with unity, or extinction. The communications officer looked up. "We're getting transmissions from other worlds, Admiral. Colonies, stations, even alien cities, all sending the same message: we stand with Earth." For the first time in years, Morgan felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. "Transmit this reply," she said. "Tell them, then we fight together." Outside, the darkness shimmered. The storm was close enough to distort space itself. Lightning-like arcs of energy slashed across the void, erasing asteroids, bending light, tearing holes in time. The fleet adjusted its formation, engines humming like a single heartbeat. Morgan activated the ship's core, and the Erebus glowed with deep blue light. "This ship was built to end wars," she whispered. "Let it end this one." The officers stood at their stations, silent and ready. No one spoke of fear anymore. They had already faced death and truth. Now only duty remained. The storm appeared on the main screen, vast, endless, filled with red veins of living energy. And in its center, a shape emerged, the same colossal being they had seen before, but larger now, its form stretching across entire worlds. It was neither machine nor god, but something older, something beyond comprehension. "Admiral," said the science officer, voice trembling, "the energy reading is infinite. We can't destroy it." Morgan looked calm. "Then we don't destroy it. We contain it." She turned to the weapons officer. "Prepare the Singularity Lance." The crew froze. The Lance was humanity's final weapon, an energy device capable of creating a miniature black hole. Firing it meant total destruction. "If we use it here," her first officer warned, "Earth won't survive." Morgan stayed at the planet on the screen. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Earth will survive in memory. Humanity will live in what comes after." The silence on the bridge was heavy. Finally, the officer nodded. "Understood, Admiral." Across the fleet, ships armed their cores, channeling power into the Erebus. Energy crackled through the void, lighting the darkness with silver arcs. Morgan opened the fleet channel. Her face appeared on every screen, human and alien alike. "This is Admiral Ray Morgan of Earth. We stand today not as enemies but as survivors. The architects built the stars, but they forgot the fire inside life itself. We are that fire. If we fall, let them remember that humanity burned brighter than fear." Her words spread across the galaxy. Soldiers wept, captains saluted, civilians held their children close. The storm reached them moments later. The first wave hit like an earthquake. Ships vanished instantly, ripped apart by energy. The Erebus shook violently, alarm screaming, but its shields held. Morgan gripped the console. "Hold the line," she shouted. The Ghost Fleet obeyed, firing everything they had. Beams of plasma, missiles, railguns, each hit tore small holes in the storm, but the wounds closed instantly. The Colossal being roared, its voice echoing through space, a mix of agony and fury. "You cannot stop the beginning," it thundered. Morgan's eyes blazed. "Then let's end it." She turned to her crew. "Fire the Singularity Lance." The Erebus glowed brighter than a sun. A beam of pure darkness erupted from its core, cutting through the storm and striking the entity's heart. Space itself screamed. The storm convulsed, pulling inward, collapsing under its own weight. Ships were dragged toward the center, vanishing into the growing void. "Eject power cores," Morgan ordered. "All ships, retreat now." But it was too late for the Erebus. The black hole's pull was too strong. Morgan looked around the bridge, her crew staring back at her with silent courage. "It's been an honor," she said softly. Her first officer smiled faintly. "For life." The Erebus fell into the lightless center, and then there was nothing, only silence. When the wave finally ended, the stars slowly reappeared. The storm was gone. The Union survivors searched the wreckage but found no trace of the Erebus. Yet across the galaxy, sensors detected a faint signal, heartbeat-like pulses coming from deep space, always repeating the same pattern. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. It was Morse code. It said, "We endure." On Earth, children looked up at the stars and whispered stories about the Ghost Fleet that had vanished to save them. They said that when the galaxy grew dark again, the Warship of Earth would return. And somewhere in the endless void, beyond time and memory, a faint blue light drifted through the darkness, the last spark of humanity, waiting for the next dawn to rise.